As Memorial Day approaches, today we remember and we celebrate the many Jews who have contributed in the U.S. military throughout this country's history on Face to Face. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hey, Rabbi Litwak. Boy,
How are you, Rabbi David?
you are coming through so clearly. I'm not sure if he already fixed our internet. We're doing a lot of work on our internet, but you look fantastic in the video today.
Thank you.
I mean,
really
you
appreciate
always
that.
look fantastic. You always look fantastic. So Memorial Day is coming up, and I know that both you and I have family members who served in the military. And so today we wanted to remember and celebrate some of those really important figures who happen to have been Jewish, or maybe who have, because of their Judaism, have been able to contribute in unique ways to the American military.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to, if it's okay, I wanted to start with a video. This is from the Jewish Chaplains Council. It's a really, really beautiful video. There was a prayer written by Rabbi Jerry Skolnick called A Prayer for America's Military Personnel. And Cantor Daniel Mendelsohn did a recording of the of this prayer, of this tefillah. It's actually included in the Jewish Chaplains Council Siddur. It's about a 3-minute video. It might get us taken down on YouTube, but it really is very, very beautiful. And they said on their website that we should use it widely. We should share it widely. So I want to share that with you now from the Jewish Chaplains Council.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להתעטף בציצית. ריבונו של עולם, ריבונו של עולם, אנו קוראים לברכתך, עליך יעלה צבא ארצות הברית, הנשים והגברים, אמיצים שגבורתם ומסירותם למדינתנו מגינה לכולנו. ריבונו של עולם, ריבונו של עולם, יותר מכל נושאים תפילה, שיזכו לשוב בשלום במהרה ובבריאות טובה למשפחותיהם ולארצם, whether by air, land or sea, wherever their orders take them, we ask, dear God, that they be protected within your sheltering presence. Ribono shel olam, Ribono shel olam, Ribono shel
I just think it was so beautiful. Beautiful
For
prayer.
sure.
So your father-in-law, Is that correct?
Both my father and my father-in-law served in the military. My father-in-law was a first lieutenant in the Army. He wasn't serving actively, but as a veterinarian, he was a meat inspector
Oh, wow.
and would ensure that the soldiers had things that were okay. And then my father-in-law, when he came to the United States after surviving the Shoah, he wanted to serve his country. And he felt that the best way that he could do that was in the military. And so he joined the United States Army. He went to Hawaii, and that's actually where he was, I'll say, discovered by a chaplain. He went to the Jewish chaplain, Chaplain Sobel, and he said, I know these prayers. Can I help you during the High Holy Days? And Chaplain Sobel said, well, how do you know them? And he told him his story. And Chaplain Sobel really invited my father-in-law to support him, and then he became chaplain's assistant. And it was through his work that my father-in-law eventually became a rabbi.
Wow.
So,
That's sort of incredible.
and the
Go ahead.
United States military turned my
Yeah,
father-in-law
into a
into a
rabbi.
rabbi.
Yeah. My father-in-law served in World War II. He was a tail gunner on a B-52 bomber, I think.
Yeah.
And what I've heard is that I don't think it's a official record or anything, but he went on 20-something missions, which is an amazing number of missions to survive, apparently. He was this little tiny Jewish man. Like, you would never think of this little tiny Jewish man as a fierce fight, someone who had the courage. I mean, I certainly don't, but to have the courage to put their lives at risk for their country, it's just unbelievable. And there are so many, that in
I'm
World
going to
War.
introduce you to a guy, Robert Rosenthal, who was a gunner, a bomber pilot in World War II. We'll come to him because we should do it in some.
We'll do it in order. Okay, yeah.
In order, but
I didn't know this, that more than 500,000 Jewish men and women served in World War II, and another million served in other Allied forces. Another 500,000 served in the Russian forces. Which I mean, when you think about the number of Jews in the world, that so many have stood up for their country, have been willing to join the army.
Well, I think historically, a common anti-Semitic method of incitement has been that to accuse Jews of not being patriotic of whatever country they have found themselves in. And that was largely expressed in the accusation that Jews didn't serve in the military. And what I think we can talk about today is that was not the case, that there have been any number of Jews. And Jews have, let's just focus on the United States. That'll be more than enough for our short time together. But Jewish Americans have served in the United States Armed Forces dating back to actually before the colonial era. And when the Jews served in the militias of the 13 colonies. And then Jewish military personnel have served in all branches in the armed forces and in all conflicts throughout our history.
Yeah. So I didn't put these in chronological order. I probably should have, but you were able to grab a few names that
I thought it would be fun to take a look at some of the individuals who are part of Jewish American military history. He's all right. So we're gonna. I guess we'll kind of skip around.
So I'm sorry, I don't have them in the right order.
Okay, it's okay. So Colonel bank is known as the architect of the Green Berets,
Right.
the special military unit. He was commissioned into the OSS, and he was tasked with creating a strike force to take out actually Adolf Hitler.
Hitler, yeah.
And he was meant to jump. He actually, they were on their way, and then they got pulled back from the mission.
And then later in life, it says here that he was involved in nuclear power security, which is, it's not surprising. It's unbelievable.
His story is that he didn't believe that the nuclear sites were secure enough, and so he ended up tangling with some of his higher ups because he was concerned about that. And indeed, it ended up that he was correct.
Wow.
And so he's an interesting character. All right, who else? Oh, all right. Well, now we can at least go back.
Now we're going back, yeah.
Well, now we're going back all the way. So Chaim Solomon is our earliest character. No photographs of him. That's pre-photography. But he was a Polish-born Jew, and he was a great friend of George Washington. And Chaim Solomon is known as being the financier of the American Revolution, that he would sell what are called bills of exchange, which are like promissory notes, and people would lend money. And he at one point sold $600,000. Now think about this: $600,000 is a lot of money in yours and my time.
Right.
He's doing this. All right. In the mid 18th century, but he wanted to support the American Revolution. And there's an interesting story about how when George Washington's war chest literally was empty, and Washington determined that he needed at least $20,000. Again, it's just an astronomical amount. $20,000 to finance what would become the Yorktown campaign, the final battle of the American Revolution. And
is that from Hamilton? The Battle of York.
Yes,
one of the songs.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Forgive
right.
that. The extent of my historical knowledge is from Broadway. Forgive me.
All right. Well, yes, from the Yorktown campaign, and George Washington didn't have the money. All right, outmanned, outgunned, as Hamilton says. So Chaim Solomon is. Well, the apocryphal story is that George Washington, when he gets told you have no money, he says, "Go to Solomon." All right, and Solomon will get the money. And sure enough, Chaim Solomon raises $20,000 and, in effect, seals the United States victory over the British in Yorktown.
That story reminds me of some of the early Israeli leaders who would come over to America and get the money that was it Golda Meir, I think, who came over.
Oh, sure.
And just raised the money that was necessary for the defense of the state.
That's right. Yeah. All right, who else we got here? Oh, all right, Judah Benjamin. Judah Benjamin, interesting character. He is probably the most notable Jewish individual in the Civil War. And Judah Benjamin is notable not for being on the Union side. Actually, he was on the Confederate side. And he is known as the first Jewish cabinet member in North American government. Now, that government was the Confederate government, but he was a cabinet member. He was
That
considered
does kind of ruin it, though, a little bit.
not, whatever. What I think is interesting about this is that while the overwhelming number of Jews who, in the Civil War, there were about somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 Jews who served. The overwhelming majority, about 70%, were in the Union, but 30% were in the Confederacy. And 600 Jews lost their lives in the Civil War. So Judah Benjamin is known as being the brains of the Confederacy, and he serves as the Attorney General of the Confederacy in 1861. He served as the Secretary of War in 1861 to 1862, and Secretary of State in 1862 to 1865. And Jefferson Davis, President Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederacy, is said to have about Judah Benjamin that he was the most capable statesman that he ever knew.
Wow.
What is one little thing, and here I want to go back to what you said earlier, which is the idea that maybe Jewish values play a part in this. Judah Benjamin had an interesting ideas. In 1864, when the Confederacy's position was becoming increasingly desperate, Judah Benjamin publicly advocated a plan whereby any slave, right, willing to bear arms for the Confederacy would be emancipated from his slavery. Right. The problem was that the proposal failed all the way up until March of 1865, at which point it was just too late to salvage the Southern cause. So, interesting guy.
One of the things that amazes me is that the last comment here, that he was the first who had to have not renounced his faith. To imagine a time when so many Jews had to, their Jewishness was not a what's the phrase? It was seen as a flaw in many ways,
right.
And it had to be hidden.
Right.
Whereas today we get to come here and celebrate that.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that. All right. So
we're going to go to
Robert,
a different one.
No.
Okay.
It's actually great. So this is Robert Rosenthal. He was a bomber pilot in World War II, and while in no way am I short shrifting your father-in-law, all right, Robert Rosenthal, Rosie Rosenthal, was. He did when you became a bomber pilot. You were you signed up, and you had to sign up for 25 missions. Okay, which is, an extraordinary. So he does this, okay, and then, all right, he turns around, all right, and he does it again. Okay, he ends up, all right, in his career, right, 52 missions, right, and not just 52 missions, right, but he gets shot down not once, but twice, right. He literally, in October of 1943, his B-17 bomber was the only one of 13 bombers from his group to return. And when it landed, right, 2 of his airplane's 4 engines had been shut down due to battle damage, and there was a large hole in his left wing because a rocket had been shot through it. Now, what I think is interesting, and I can't speak to Rosie Rosenthal, but for those people who Jews who ended up being prisoners of war, one of the big concerns is knowing that Hitler and the Nazis would kill Jews, right? I'm grabbing. All right, I'm grabbing. There we go. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. So this is Harold P. Jacobson. We'll talk about him when we really talk about his wife. All right, but right down there on top of my finger is the H. Okay, the H is for Hebrew.
I've never seen that before.
Oh yeah, so this is
Wow.
on your dog tag you have your religion. So P for Protestant, C for Catholic, H for Hebrew. So many times when soldiers, right, thought they were going to be captured, is they ditched their dog tags, right? And there's a wonderful, like, just 27-minute PBS program called GI Jews, about Jews in World War II, and one of the clips is about a guy who refused to ditch his dog tags. He said, "I'm going to suffer whatever it is," but it is what it is. So Roz Lippman Schult is the most recent. You can see 2009. She served in Afghanistan, and she was. You got to turn on your mute.
Sorry, she was 25 years old. That's unbelievable.
She was 25 years
Wow.
old, and it is. Her parents say that she always wanted to serve her country, and she went on. She became. She went to the Air Force Academy, and she was the first female Air Force Academy graduate to be killed in action, and it came from an IED. She was going there. She in February 2009. You see, she died in May. In February 2009, she left on a 6-month tour to teach Afghanis how to gather their own intelligence. And on May 20th, her convoy was hit by an IED, and she was killed almost instantly. So, you know. Uriah Levy, a interesting character. He's actually from the War of 1812, and he served in the War of 1812. He served in the war against the Barbary pirates, and he was a commodore of the U.S. Navy's Mediterranean Squadron. And what I like about him is the very end of the paragraph is that he prevailed against anti-Semitism. That 6 times in his career he went up against not just his fellow naval officers, but superior officers to all the way to court-martial because of anti-Semitism. And twice he was forced out, and then they reinstated him when they went through and reviewed the case. So if you think about Alfred Dreyfus, in the Dreyfus affair, the French military officer who was accused of spying, all right, which was trumped up charges of anti-Semitic charges. Here's a guy who went through that in the United States and prevailed. The other thing that I like about Commodore Levy is that it is the penultimate statement, the idea that he helped the Navy's end the Navy's practice of flogging. and this is where I can't speak to him. I don't know enough, but I'd like to imagine that that somewhere in there, his Jewish identity and his Jewish knowledge helped that.
Yeah.
I'll give you one other thing about Uriah Levy, and that is he was a philanthropist. Right? And what is he best known for? Uriah Levy found out that Thomas Jefferson's Monticello was going to be sold because of family debts. And Levy buys it, right, and restores it. Right? He has that much respect for Thomas Jefferson. He personally commissioned a statue of Jefferson that now sits, the statue of Jefferson that now sits in the Capitol Rotunda, all right, was paid for by Uriah Levy. It is the only privately funded statue on U.S. property.
Really? Wow. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
My friend Jeanette Jacobson. So Jeanette, some people who are part of Temple Sinai remember Jeanette. Jeanette was a congregant of ours from probably about 1979 until she died in 2014. And Jeanette was a wonderful, wonderful human being. We bring her up because you can see her in her military uniform. She was one of the first women to enlist in the military, in the Women's Armed Auxiliary Corps. She, as soon as she was able to, she wanted to serve, and she ended up going over to Europe, and she helped plan bombing missions, and she was, as it says, she was awarded the Bronze Star. And a lot of other medals. Unfortunately, Temple Sinai is the beneficiary, and we hold all of her personal effects. So I thought, just for the heck of it, she was involved in the Jewish war veterans, and so this is her Florida. She was the department chair, meaning she was kind of the commandant for the state of Florida Jewish war veterans. So this is a plaque that was given to her in 1996, 1997. And then just to come back, this was Harold was her husband, who we never met. He died before she moved down to Florida. But she was an extraordinary woman and extremely, extremely proud. And I'm really so honored that we hold her. When I did her funeral, she didn't have any children, and she didn't have no living relatives, and so we hold her military flag from military honors.
Wow,
It's a
beautiful.
really, really special moment. So,
Beautiful. Thank you. We had another, but you have something special to get to, I think.
I do indeed.
What do you have to get to, Rabbi?
Well, I'm celebrating my 25th anniversary of my ordination, so I'm about to receive my doctorate of divinity, which is an honorary degree. No, I did not write anything more.
I'm going to have to call you doctor now from now on.
You can call me Alan. That's fine.
Mazal,
You don't call me
mazal.
Alan. You call me Rabbi.
I don't.
So.
Yeah. Mazal, mazal, mazal tov. Just sending so
Thank
much
you,
love and
everybody.
congratulations your way. And to everyone who's watching, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to say, this is a wonderful acknowledgement of the contribution that Jews have made to the safety and the security of our country. So
there's a lot to remember and really a lot to celebrate. this
Yeah.
weekend. So thank you for helping us do that. And everyone, we hope to see you tonight for our annual meeting, and also over Shabbos and for all of our big celebrations. Rabbi, enjoy your celebration today. We'll
Thanks
see
a
you
lot.
soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.